Welcome to
Separate Bathrooms and other handy marriage tips.
And the dogs have walked in. That means we are rolling.
Great. Hello, welcome to Separate Bathrooms and other handy marriage tips. I'm Ali.
I'm Cam, and we are here.
And we are. My goodness, what a journey it has been to get to this podcast today.
Well, you want to explain why?
Well, usually how we go about our podcast is mostly I come up with a topic, not always, because you've come up with some great topics as well, but I might come up with a topic and we'll discuss it, and then we'll put ideas on paper, and then Cam does all the finagling at the end and stuff like that. So that's how we
Finagling.
It's
a good word.
Yeah. And so
what does it mean?
People know what finagling means.
Okay.
I don't need to explain. It's not important.
Okay.
And so then today, I came up with the idea of what I thought we should talk about. And I've come up against a bit of a defensive, angry husband about this. It seemed. And then we were like, okay, well, let's just jump right into it, do the podcast. And then the equipment failed.
Yeah.
So which made my husband even more angry. So now we're on having another whirl at it.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, it's not so much, it's frustrated. I hate I'm not great at technology. And
You're good at fixing things, though.
Yeah, give me a nail and a piece of wood. I'm pretty good at it. But this sort of stuff, I've really had to teach myself. Yeah. And because my eyesight is and I have to wear glasses and they get fogged up when I get steamy and I get frustrated. And then what was going on here, I fixed it, but I have no idea how I fixed it. Yeah. I don't know what the problem was. It was just like a gremlin. It's like there's a full moon outside.
Right.
There's a super moon going on. Some would argue that that's behind it. Mercury retrograde.
Goodness knows.
Who knows? The lack of toilet paper in our house. It's just...
We've got toilet paper.
I know we do.
Anyway,
so we're here, and yes, I was a little... Look, I'm not frustrated. I get nervous about these kind of topics, but this is important for us to talk about, I think, to have these kinds of conversations, because, I don't know, it's just, do we have different points of view? I don't know, but I get nervous sometimes when we're about to launch into conversations like we're going to have, because I feel like I was about to say F it up, but I'm going to say something that's going to piss you off, and that's just going to end up, look, now my glasses are getting fogged up. But I get nervous about it, and I know there are a lot of guys out there that would relate to me in this moment.
Let's not keep anyone else in suspense.
We've yacked for 3 minutes and said nothing.
Exactly. So what I wanted to talk about was men, midlife, and the younger woman.
Now you know why I'm nervous.
So, cue the scene from
Love Actually.
Love Actually. That just agonizing, heartbreaking scene with Emma Thompson and
Alan Rickman.
Alan, thank you. And we also got a really great, to go along with that, we got some really interesting commentary from one of our listeners on Facebook. And it was after the sex podcast. And she wrote, she wrote, do you think that perhaps it is the ancient Neanderthal way that men think? It was always man over women. Has the playing field not changed of late? Should it not be the woman's choice, and should it not be the woman's choice? And should the man not feel appreciative if a woman wants to have sex? Why are we questioning the woman's issues as to why it is not happening? This is when we were talking about when sex is not happening, the woman doesn't want to and the guy does. Mm-hmm. Men need to be more informed. However, why are the women the ones trying to explain menopause?
Right. That
just puts more pressure in the pot. So she goes on to talk a little bit more about that, but I just think it's a really, it's an interesting topic. This is what I wanted to get into, about the commonality of what happens in midlife, women in menopause, men in their own version of menopause, and then the marriage splits apart, men go date a 22-year-old.
Yeah.
So, and of course that's not always, though. It does happen, you know, and I just wanted to open that up a bit and discuss that because I'm writing a book on menopause. I'm also researching the men's point of view.
Andropause.
Oh, look at you. Did someone actually Google it? What did you learn, Cameron Daddo?
See what I deal with? All right. I'm just letting you know.
I'm excited that you Googled it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm not going to come to the party without something.
Yeah.
I have said
Of course
to you.
you're going to come to the party with something. You're the dude. You're the guy.
Okay. I looked it up. Let's go back to an earlier podcast. Probably was the sex one when I talked about the priest. Not a priest. He was our reverend who said that Shirley's vagina is my vagina and my penis is Shirley's penis, and that set up an expectation that I get to have Alison's vagina anytime I want it, right? It's just too funny. It still cracks me up.
I know, it's still funny.
It's still funny. And now I know there's a lot of guys out there going to be calling their wives vajayjay a vagini. Look, anyway, so look, I digress. It is around that, and that men, I know a lot of guys, this expectation, and that's the problem. It's an expectation. It's an unreal expectation that it's going to be on tap always, you know, and I'm learning that women who have allowed that to happen in their lives, and then suddenly later on in life, they're going, I can't do it anymore. I just can't roll over for you, just roll my leg over and get into it just because you want it. And because it's been a setup thing and it's been habitual behavior for the marriage, you know, I'm talking, you know, 20 years, maybe 10 years, 15 years, whatever it is. But there comes a time when the woman wakes up and goes, I can't do this anymore. And the guy goes, what do you mean? What am I doing? Now, to that, as I had my birthday last week, and I've given this some thought, and it just feels like as we get older, particularly for guys, we get this feeling of inadequacy, that we're not the same. Obviously, we're not the same person that we were in our 20s. That mental alertness, the sharpness, the physical attributes that we had. We're not that, but we still, in our mind, we're still back there. We're still back in, when I say back there, back in our 20s, in our 30s. And suddenly things aren't working quite as well as they were.
You say particularly for guys.
Well,
how do you know?
Well, I know
it's not for women as well.
Because I don't know the female part of it. I'm not female.
No, I understand that, but it was just interesting when you said particularly for guys. Like it's
okay.
women.
I'm speaking from what I know.
Yes,
so
yes.
I'm holding down my arrow.
Yeah,
you're holding down the cross.
No, it almost sounded like you were saying,
it's not
guys have it.
Yeah, no, it's not at the exclusion of women.
I think it's both. I think both of us do that.
Possibly. You tell me about your side of things.
Well, I mean, I've spoken about menopause before, and it's an incredibly challenging time for not all women, and I think it's the same for men. It's not all men go through what you're talking about either. I just wanted to open up the discussion about when that does happen and what does happen to a man during midlife, what else goes on for them, and then what is that catalyst that sends them into the arms of a younger woman. And I think that there's more layers to just, he wants a hot young chick. I think sometimes there is more layers to that. Sometimes maybe that's just all it is too. Though from what I've understood through my book is that with men, there's a decline. It's a much slower decline in testosterone for men. Like women, it can happen. Sometimes it feels like it's overnight. With men, it's a little bit of a gentler decline.
Well, and it starts well before
It does.
the 50s.
Oh, yeah, it starts
Yeah.
in your 30s. So, and the hormones are just, it's different with women. And there's a lot more, sometimes there's a lot more going on hormonally. The shifts for women are much more dramatic usually than for men. Though the emotional thing that happens for both of us, I think, is what you're saying, is actually quite similar. This stock take of like, what have I done with my life?
Yeah.
What am I going to do with the second half of my life? I've become on the flip side of somewhat the invisible people, and we raise the kids to a certain age now, and I'm at this point in my career, and do I even want to stay in this career? A lot of people question that. So it's just, I think that perhaps, I don't know, maybe you can answer this. I think, is it more of a thing for a guy to sort of question themselves at 50, 55, crap, what have I done career-wise, financially? Have I set myself up correctly? My family, have I set my family up correctly?
Yeah.
And then when some young hot woman shows a bit of interest, it's an ego stroke. Like, is that what that is for guys, do you think?
Look, you said it before, it's a multifaceted answer, and you cannot, I mean, look, I'm not an expert. We know that. You cannot lump this into a one answer thing.
Yeah.
If it is absolute instant gratification or whatever it is. I think there's a commonality though with men, and you mentioned the word before, testosterone, and when that starts to go, and what happens physically with that is that you're not feeling as vibrant or as strong or as clear-headed, or your concentration sort of goes out the window a bit. These things start to waver, as that goes out. Did I say that right? Testosterone.
Testosterone.
There's so many different ways. Testosterone,
Terrarium?
whatever. Terraris, terrarum. We're in a Latin lesson now. We all like to be admired. I think men like to feel wanted. And if a man is not feeling that within himself, he's not happy with his work output, he's not happy with his sexual output, he's not happy with physical, he's not how he's feeling physically, he's feeling physically weaker. I think men, and this is maybe back to that Neanderthal time, and maybe that's the difference between men and women. I may be generalizing. Maybe dudes out there now going, dude, you are so off the mark. I think generally, to some level, we all like to be admired. We all like to have the ego stroked a little bit. I don't think I'm talking out of school with my dad. My dad's 80 and he retired, but his mind is active and he's fit. He's still able to do a lot and offer a lot to society. Now, he's been hired in a job where he's overseeing a big project, and he's back to feeling fantastic again. It's like he's 65. It's like he's in his prime again. He's loving it. But I can tell he's a bit more tired, and he's taking a bit more time, but he's in this place where he's feeling his self-worth. And I think that you talk about a guy running off with a young woman. Maybe that's the young woman is showing an admiration for that fellow, and he's feeling like, wow, I'm feeling appreciated here. And maybe, I'm just throwing it out there, maybe in a long-term relationship, when you've got two people who are pretty much the same age, both going through andropause or menopause, and the menopause, going through the pauses in life, that, the woman you've got a lot going on. You've got all those symptoms that you're dealing with, the hot flushes, the feeling tired, things not working the way they used to, whatever. And you're dealing with a lot. And so your focus is not where it used to be for the man. And maybe, that man's feeling, like you said, the work isn't as great as it was, or questioning, have I set my family up? Have I set myself up? Have I hit my goals? And you can see the finish line. When you're 30 and you've got 30 years ahead, you got you till you're 60, but when you're 50 and suddenly you've got 30 years ahead, I'm going to be 80. I feel glad because my dad's still working at 80, so I'm like, wow,
Yeah,
I'll
and you're
still
an
be
actor
there.
too. It's not like you can keep working until you die, really.
Maybe. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, not everyone can do that.
No, not everyone can do it. So maybe it's even worse for someone who's in a job where that you're out of there at 65. So the stakes are higher. And in a moment of, where if that is the case, what I'm suggesting there is some young woman comes up and goes, well, you're hot. And the guy goes, yeah, I am, but I haven't felt like that. You make me feel like a 35-year-old again, or however that goes. So, and then that's just something that happens. You mentioned the Love Actually movie with Alan Rickman. Maybe that's part of what that story is being told, that he suddenly feels, wow, I'm not in this old relationship that feels old and I'm not appreciated, and he's someone who looks up to me and reckons I'm ace. So I'm not condoning it too, by the way, honey. I'm not actually saying it's the right thing to do, or I'm just saying it's something that happens. And you're asking me about what a 50-year-old man is thinking, so I'm just giving you an idea.
Yeah, I'm asking about sort of men's emotional health.
And I can't answer for all men too.
Of course not.
And I wouldn't.
I think, my feeling is that it's, okay, yes, we all like to be admired. I understand that. That's a dangerous place to put your value. If your wife, if you don't feel valued by your wife anymore, how much of your eggs have you put in your wife's basket to feel admired? That's the dangerous place, because if you've put all your eggs in your wife's basket to make me feel like I'm a good man and I'm wanted, you're stuffed already, because you've got to be able to feel the admiration in yourself for yourself.
So to someone who's listening right now, because I'm just going, holy crap, there's a guy driving in the car listening to the podcast with his wife going, shit, I've done exactly that. Am I really stuffed? Or is this a wake-up call? Is this the moment where you go, have I done that? To ask yourself that question. Do I do that? Maybe it's time I stop.
Am I looking for validation outside of myself?
Bingo. That's it.
And that's where the door swings open. I can swing open for another person to step into that space in order to make you feel, in air quotes, validated and like a man again. And
that's been part of our early marriage.
Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah,
that was exactly it. The validation part, seeking validation outside,
which was interesting because I gave you all that validation. I mean, that's why I'm saying that. Like I gave you so much validation. I had you so high on a pedestal as king of all kings, the most amazingly gorgeous, handsome, wonderful man that ever walked the earth.
It's still true, darling. Still true.
It wasn't enough because you didn't believe it.
Because I didn't feel it.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So that's the danger. That's when you start to look outside and go, somebody else fill me up.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. If you're dealing with all this list of ailments, or ailments, but this condition that andropause brings you, this lack of concentration, all that, physical, you're losing your muscles and your testicles are drying up or whatever's going on. Well, evidently that's part of it. Erectile dysfunction. Pardon?
Yes, the erectile dysfunction.
And yes, and I know you go through a version of that. Women go through a version of that. So it's in those moments that you're suddenly, when you are questioning yourself and that outside validation comes in, it's a very shiny, seductive path to take if you're not on the same page with your partner.
Yeah, I would imagine it would be. I would imagine it would be. And so bottom line is if you're of a certain age, you're probably both feeling the same thing, and maybe you're just not talking to each other about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like to be able to sit down and go, okay, are you as fuzzy brained as I am? Are you feeling as desperate as I am? Are you feeling as lonely as you, or all of those lists of things, in order to catch that place where there could be the outside validation that begins to pull your attention. Because I do think that is part of what happens with men and younger women. I really do. I think they reach that point and they're looking for something to give them a fix, a little boost, a little ego.
Well, it happens in many different ways. You'll see, I mean, that's all you'll see the guy. I mean, it's a generalization, I know, but there's always a joke made about it. You'll see the middle-aged guy driving in his hot new red Ferrari or on the Harley. And I guess that's the midlife crisis car, or the boat is named Midlife Crisis.
Yeah,
you know.
There's actually a quote that says, women go through menopause and get hot flushes. Men go through menopause and get a young wife and a Ferrari. That's actually a quote that I've read, which is unfair. It is unfair.
It is. It is unfair,
So
and
it's
yet like when you said, when it becomes a cliche. Usually, cliches come from a lot of people doing it,
Right.
You know, and behaving in a particular way.
I wonder how common it is if older women ever do that with younger guys. Like, do you think that that's a thing? Like, I don't know of anyone who's done that, left their husband for a younger man. To feel validated, like while they're personally going through menopause. I've never.
Oh,
heard
well,
that story.
No, I have heard of that.
Have you really?
Yes, I have.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'll ask you about it later.
Maybe I won't tell you about it later, but I can validate that.
Yeah, interesting.
You know, I don't think anything we're talking about here is exclusive to one sex. You know, I think we both, I mean, one
Not
gender,
exclusive.
rather,
Yeah,
I should
I
say,
agree.
one gender. I think that we all behave in certain ways.
Yeah. This wonderful listener and Facebook post also went on to say, many couples often wait until something very strange happens within their marriage or within themselves personally, and they have no idea how to deal with it. So my point is, if you have a partner aged 45 plus, maybe ask them, when did their mother go through menopause, and do they know what it was like for her? It can sometimes be similar, same as periods, another taboo word. So if men are aware that this is going to happen, how about they just go to Google, get some information, then discuss it with their partner? And then she said, on the other hand, so I'm not sounding totally biased, men will have a similar but different experience with erectile problems, so maybe call that men's menopause.
Yeah.
So I think that's basically what we've been saying, that just as much as guys, it would be great for men to find out about menopause. You know, what do we need to know about what's going on for you guys as well?
Yeah.
What's happening for you?
Well, yeah, and I think a lot of this too is I can use my golf analogy here, but this golf swing is all about it's all about creeping. You creep into good habits and you creep out of good habits. And I feel like with marriage and long-term relationships, or any relationship at any stage, you creep into habits if you're not talking, if you're not communicating with each other. And I don't think you and I would be together if we didn't, if we
not a
hadn't
chance.
communicated.
There'd be no way.
And it's really about being curious, isn't it?
Yeah.
And asking questions.
And you can write each other an email.
Yeah.
You can write each other a letter. You can write, through text. I mean, there's many ways to communicate to get that ball rolling.
Yeah.
What's going on for you right now?
Yeah, and that's hard. I know a lot of guys go, I don't know what's going on for me right now. I don't have the words to tell you. I think it's just the other part of it is to, as we creep into these different stages of our life, is to give yourself time, to figure out what it is you need, what it is you want.
Yeah.
And that means, getting some time alone. Think of that rug analogy and just go away by yourself, pick up your rug and shake it out.
Do you mean the rug on your head, like when you've got a hairpiece? Shake out the hairpiece?
Just shake yourself out. Let all the shit fall out and see where you're at,
because
basically.
I have also found, as difficult as this time has been...
Which time?
I'm about to say.
Oh.
As difficult as this time has been, menopause and all the changes, I've also found it the most empowering time of my life as well. And I think that that's what is... Through we talked about this. Through great challenges comes great success, and great changes.
Yeah.
And I think that is what has certainly happened for me is the changes I've begun to put in place because I feel like I've had to, or else I'd be a bawling mess curled up in bed. Have been the changes I've needed to make for a while, and they've been very positive.
Yeah, and that can be scary for a partner.
Absolutely.
Because you're becoming all empowered and you're becoming, you're taking your wisdom. You've always had it. It's always been there, whether it's been suppressed or you've chosen not to speak or whatever it is, but it's always been there. And then I think for many men and women, it's particularly in this Western culture. And as you said before, it's very, and as our listener who wrote in, talked about this, it's a male-dominated society. So if you take the equation of men, it goes down the leash. It's generational. We were taught by our dads, they were taught by their dads, and so on and so forth. And it takes a lot to turn that ship around. It takes a lot of consciousness to turn that kind of thinking around. And we're in that process right now. That time is turning around. And men, I think, don't know what to do in some cases when a woman is stumping up and going, you know what, this is what I reckon. And for the guy that's been brought up by a dad that's, breadwinner, I'm home at 6, the dinner goes on the table, you wash my clothes, you do this, you spread your legs when I want it.
Oh,
that
gosh.
Sort of stuff, right?
That's hideous.
Yeah, I know, but there are people, that's people, they're out there like that. But when that gets challenged and it's not, they don't know where to go. They don't know what to do with that when it's in front of them. And then that's when stuff like abuse starts. That's where physical abuse, alcohol abuse, drug abuse.
Sounds like it's already abusive.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually.
Yeah, but it's definitely part of our society. And we all need to sort of take a deep breath and go, all right, what is kind? Let's talk about this. What do you need? Because we can't keep going with this level of expectations that you got to behave in a certain way.
I read another quote the other day, and it was from a man, and he said something to the effect of, my wife has been about 8 different women through the whole time of our marriage, and each one I've loved just as much as the last.
Wow.
And I just think that was so beautiful because that is true. We all go through changes.
Yeah.
And to love who you keep becoming, particularly if you're becoming more of yourself and more strong and happier within yourself. To me, that I would only ever want that for you anyway.
Yeah.
So, if someone is threatened by someone becoming more of themselves and happier, then I don't think they're the right person for you.
Well, you've brought up a really good idea there. And to me, that's all about acceptance. And it's acceptance of who you are as the individual yourself, and then acceptance of your partner. And I think that's really, really important to be able to accept. And look, I've got to own something. There's part of me where I have had these rigid ideas of what you should be, what you've brought to me. And I know I watched my grandparents on both sides. I've watched my mum and dad and how they are, and how my mum has been a wife to my dad, and what she's done and given up. And I've seen the flip side to that too, when she's with that part of her where she feels like she has given up something, and it's very upsetting, and I can see it's very troubling for her in those moments, and she doesn't like to touch that area much at all. I understand that, though, and I've picked that up to a certain degree, And then I've had to go, through all the ladies in America, our wonderful community of ladies in America who are very strong-willed women. And they taught me, they were like, no, Cameron, this is, they were as much as help for me.
Help for you in what way?
In accepting and stepping away from this idea of how things should be, in my mind, through my conditioning. I've read this thing before. It's the risk factors of midlife crisis. And there were three words that came up. One was narcissism, that everything evolves around you, that this is the way I do it and that's the way it's got to be done. That happens evidently a lot in and through a midlife crisis for men. The other one I've talked about already is these unrealistic expectations that we have and that we expect. And a great sort of visual is lack of guardrails. And because we are, we have some money, means, and we can basically do whatever we want, you don't have the guardrails up keeping you in line. And so when there's a lack of guardrails and it's like, you just take whatever you want, that can lead to trouble as well. And I imagine that, I was thinking about that, well, I've got a lazy 150 grand, I'm just going to go and buy a Lamborghini because I want one. It's going to make me feel better. But most of the time, if you ask people who do things like that, impulse buying, or to make themselves feel better, it wears off pretty quickly. Because what they actually want is a connection with someone of the heart.
Who said that?
Bruce. Next door. We were just chatting over the fence. We were leaning on our lawnmowers.
Did you have the lawnmowers going? Are you sure that's what he said?
Honey, I don't have a motor mower yet. I'm getting one because I'm having a midlife crisis.
Right, so he had his... and so
he had his turbocharged four-stroke and I've got my manual pusher.
You had your vintage pusher going.
Correct.
Okay.
And Bruce told me...
Bruce said...
These are the three guidelines. So I've gone out, now you know this, I've gone out and I've bought a Red Rover four-stroke mower. I'm feeling pretty bloody pumped about it.
That's your midlife crisis there.
Maybe it is.
It's the brand... Actually, no, I can't say it's brand new. It's your beautiful second-hand mower. Yeah. Oh, darling.
I bid for it online at an auction and I won it for $200. So.
Good on you. You rebel you.
I am.
Look, better that than a second-hand 22-year-old blonde secretary, I'd say.
Yeah, look.
I think, and I know... Every female that I know.
Every female that I know. Yeah.
There is nothing more attractive in a man who loves his wife and is open about it. There is nothing more attractive. And I'm just thinking particularly of our friend Hugh Jackman, who just loves Deb and shouts it from the rooftop. That is such an appealing quality. And I think I don't know any woman who would not find that attractive. Not necessarily in Hugh, but, whoever. Yeah. So it's a funny thing.
Is that getting back? Oh, sorry.
I'm not saying that's, and they don't want to split that guy up.
No.
But that is one of the and the way they are with their children.
Right.
Oh, so attractive.
Because he admires his wife.
But he also has the confidence to admire her publicly. He doesn't feel like he has to pretend like, hey, I'm still single, I'm still available, and wife's in the background.
Right.
He's confident in himself and in his marriage to go, this is this woman, this incredible woman.
Well, the Keith's like that.
Keith Urban?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Love it.
I reckon I'm a bit like that.
You are, honey. You are. You've always been like that, actually.
I owned it just a little bit.
Yeah.
I do.
I should have put you in that category. It's true. You do. You're wonderful in that way. Your glasses are steaming up again.
My eyeballs are exploding. No, it's true. It's true. Well, I guess we should get some experts on this show.
That would be good.
To help us through this stuff. But I think innately we've come up with some pretty good stuff.
I'd love to hear what people think.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, if you please hit us up on Facebook, hit us up on Instagram. We're at Separate Bathrooms and Other Handy Marriage Tips on Facebook. You can hit us up on Instagram too. That's pretty much where we are. I don't tweet. Ali doesn't tweet. You're not even on Twitter, are you? Ali's at Ali Datto. I'm at Cameron Datto. And we'd love to get your thoughts on this. And, hear what you have to say.
Thanks so much for listening. We'll catch you next time.
We will catch you on the next one. This has been Separate Bathrooms.
And other handy hints.
For relationships.
Hopefully. Kind of, sort of. All right.
Yeah, take
Thanks
what
so
you
much.
want. Cheers.